Here we are again. Last Wednesday of the month. Usually here. Facebook and YouTube. Not always on Facebook. Sometimes it gives me grief and I can't log in for these things. But YouTube, I'm secure. I usually get in and I see that we have an audience from Facebook. So it looks like we're working all right. I want to thank you for coming out. Usually, what I like to do is I start off on a topic that I am interested in, that I think you might be interested in, something we haven't really covered in detail in the past. And then after a few minutes of me doing my monologue, Jimmy Kimmel style monologue, we'll toss it open for discussion, questions on any topic. I mean, I'm going to talk a little bit about fish today because I've been eating a lot of fish, or seafood in general, should I say. I just came back. I live in a suburb of Chicago, and my wife and I just took a week and drove north into Wisconsin, across the Upper Peninsula, down to Mackinac Island, and into Michigan, over to Traverse City, up and down around the Leelanau Peninsula, and onto the coast of Lake Michigan there. And then we scooted over to the other side of Michigan, to Rochester, Michigan, which is the world headquarters of Leader Dogs for the Blind. And we have trained 7 leader dog trainees. We pick up puppies there at 8 weeks old. We picked up a black lab female 8 weeks old 2 days ago, 3 days ago, and a 14-pounder with razor sharp teeth and a big mouth. So we are up and running, training our 8th puppy for Leader Dogs for the Blind. Not getting a lot of sleep. Fortunately, we haven't had too many accidents indoors. The secret there is every hour they go out. And she's not quite sure about her name. Her name is Starla. And we think she's kind of aware of her name. She's kind of aware of the word no and good girl and ow when she bites. But we're making some progress. Hey, Jim, good to see you again. It was kind of fun. The first stop was a little town called Paoli, Wisconsin, which is just south of Madison. And it's a farm town. And there used to be, and Wisconsin, of course, is a cow town, a cow state, a lot of cheese and milk. And there was this old dairy, the 7-acre farm dairy. And it's been converted into a resort. It only has like 6 or 8 bedrooms there, but they're very nice, very comfortable. And it's right on the banks of the Sugar River. Excuse me, I'm struggling with a bit of hay fever, particularly going up into the woods in the country as I did. In any case, right on the banks of the Sugar River, and they've got this sauna right on the banks of the river, so you can take the sauna and jump in the river. The river is pretty clean, and they say it's good for swimming. While we were there, I had arranged with them to do a presentation, a book signing, we had a nice little crowd, about 20, 25 people, and I have a PowerPoint slideshow that I do that is, some of it is excerpted from the book that I just published in May, The Meathead Method, and we talk a lot about barbecue grilling and myths and such. And then their chef cooked up a meal based on recipes in my new book. There it is right there, The Meathead Method. I'm very proud of it, and the great Alton Brown said it's the only book on outdoor cookery you'll ever need. Not bad from Alton Brown. But in any case, we had a nice meal up there, spent the night, and then we drove on north. And so Friday night, they had every Friday night, they have fish fry. And the fried fish they did it was haddock, and it was fantastic. It was really fresh, and their breading was our breadings, they come essentially in two flavors. Some breadings are just rolled around in flour or flour and cornmeal, or it can be corn flakes, Cheetos, whatever you want, but it's a dry breading. Others are dunked into a batter, which is a thick, like a pancake batter. And most fish fries are battered. So they dunk it in this batter, and really a great batter, great coating they made. Was really crisp and crunchy, and it wasn't oily and greasy, and it was just delightful. So we started off our trip with batter fried haddock. And I don't know if you're aware, but on AmazingRibs.com and in my new book, I talk about deep frying on a gas grill. If you've ever done any deep frying like chicken or onion rings or fish indoors, you know it's problematic. It spatters all over the stovetop and the countertop, even on the floors, sets off the smoke alarm, stinks up the house, and you end up sleeping on the couch. And so I don't do any frying indoors, but I do it on my gas grill. I take a big Dutch oven and put about 2 inches of oil in there. And the Dutch oven's got high sides, so it contains most spatters. But if it spatters, who cares if it gets a little bit on the grill grates? It's not going to catch on fire. It doesn't catch on fire. And even if it were, it's not going to do any harm. So put the Dutch oven, put one burner on high, and bring the temperature up to 350, 375, and then leave the other side off, 2-zone cooking. And you can take your chicken or fish or whatever and roll it in a dredge or in a batter. In it goes to the oil. Cook it to temp. Use your thermometer to measure the oil temp and to measure the food temp. And when it's beautiful and golden, you take it out and lay it on the grill grates right next to the Dutch oven, and in goes the next batch of food, and the stuff over on the side stays warm. You don't have any burners under there, but if you close the lid, it just continues to stay warm. It's fantastic, and you can do fried foods any night of the week with a minimum of mess. No fuss, doesn't smell up the house or anything like that. So in my world, fried chicken is now grilled food and fried fish. So just got back a couple of days ago. I'm planning on doing some batter fried fish very soon. Then we took off and headed up north, up towards Sturgeon Bay, and found a little place where we booked a reservation at a restaurant. Place was built in the 60s, and it was still in the 60s. They've cleaned it up and modernized a little, but not much. So it felt like a trip back in time. The wallpaper, the carpet, and the furnishings all felt 60s. And they had a restaurant there right on Lake Michigan. I mean, it was right there. And my room looked at the sunset. Opened the window, and there was the sun going down, just spectacular. Went to the restaurant, and I ordered lake perch. And they used a dredge. The perch are very small fish. I've caught them and I've fried them before. They're usually pan fried, and that's what they did here. But they had a really good dredge. That it was a mix of white flour and cornmeal and herbs. And they left the skin on, but it had been boned out. So little fillets, maybe, 4 to 5 inches long, an inch or two wide, maybe 3/4 of an inch thick, and pan fried them. Fresh perch, pan fried to perfection. Whoever the cook was I bumped into the manager. I said, I don't know who your cook is, but don't ever let him get away, because it was the best perch I've ever had. Some of the best fish I've ever had. And I was raised in Florida. Dad and I spent every weekend out in the Gulf of Mexico, and then we moved to the other side of the state in the Atlantic. And I've eaten a lot of fish, and I've cooked a lot of fish, and this was just brilliant. A place called the Lighthouse Inn on the coast of Michigan. It's just across from Green Bay. That was fantastic. We moved along, and in Mackinac, we had some broiled whitefish from Lake Superior, which was right there, fresh, caught that day. My wife had it with a cream sauce. I had it just plain broiled almondine with slivers of almond. Fresh whitefish. Again, really delightful. So many different ways to cook fish. Then we drove on over to the Leelanau Peninsula, which sticks up into Lake Michigan, and went to a small town called Leland, which is known as Fishtown. And right there on the river that spills out into the lake, maybe 100 yards from the lake, is a shack. Carlson's smoked fish. And he had an old smoker there, 5th generation, an old handmade smoker, and they smoked Lake Superior whitefish, Lake Michigan whitefish, lake trout, salmon. They made something that is something of a tradition up in the northern parts of the Great Lakes that you don't see anywhere else, and I don't know why, because it's marvelous. They make fish sausage. There's also what they call dip, or fish dip, and it's like, if you think of tuna salad, only it's made with smoked fish. And I have a recipe for Youper. Youper is what they call the Upper Peninsula. Youper's smoked fish in my new book, Meathead Method. And we brought some home, and I made it yesterday, and that recipe is just great. So if you like tuna salad, but you want to play with smoked fish, this is what you do. And we'll talk about smoking fish in just a minute. So that's just some of the delights we had. The Great Lakes, you don't think of them as sources of fish, but there are fishing boats and fishing fleets out there that are tremendous. So, some tricks about cooking fish. Let me show you a couple of gadgets I've got here. Fish is notoriously bad at sticking to the grill. It's the worst. It's worse than any other meat. This is a really good gadget to have. Let's see if I can pull this back here. It looks like maybe a tennis racket, huh? But let's open this up. It's got a little latch here. Opens up, and you put the fish in here, and if you oil the fish or you oil this tennis racket gizmo, it doesn't stick too bad. But when it's time to turn, you turn this, so it's not sticking to the grill grates. Now, it will sometimes stick here, but it's not the end of the world if it does. It doesn't fall apart quite so badly. There's another variation on that theme. I think I got this from Weber. It looks like bed springs. And it's got a little clip here. I really like this guy. Again, it opens up. It's got a clip. Clips together. But let's see if I can show you. These bed springs stretch. So if you... Here's a fish. If you put a fish in there and clamp it, you can see it grips the fish and holds it in place. And this one's big enough to hold 2 or 3 fish. So I really like this guy. And again, it's not sticking to your grill grates. And that is a big pain. And then there's one more gizmo that I really like. And that's called grill grates. And grill grates, you can see they have these rails. And see that? And it's extruded aluminum, and then it's got holes punched in it. And this sits on top of your grill grates, and in fact, it can replace your grill grates. It has several really nice features. Because it's solid aluminum, it's pretty thick. It really distributes the heat, so if you have hot spots on your grill, this tends to even them out. But the fish sits on top of these, or steaks, whatever you're cooking, sits on top of these. And when you buy them, it comes with special spatulas that fit. Okay, trying to manage this camera. See if it fits right down so you can get right under the fish and lift up, and it lifts it off really nicely. They have some that have like 4 or 5 tines. This has 3 tines, but look at it, it's got 2 sides. So you stick this under here, grab the fish, clamp down, and lift it up. And it really works good on seafood. You put oil on the grill grates, and it lets go. But it doesn't always let go. Okay. Those are some of the tricks for doing grilling fish. Now, I almost always start with the flesh side down because it's flexible. And if you look at a piece of fish, generally, it has this parabolic curve, and it tapers off towards the belly. And the belly, by the way, is often the fattiest, and it's prized. And a lot of people look at it and they want to cut it off. What you can do, because it cooks unevenly, the thin pieces cook more rapidly than the center thick pieces, you can fold it over and hold it with some toothpicks. And that does a pretty good job of evening it out. So I start with the flesh side down, and that, as it cooks, it stiffens. Then you flip it over, skin side down, and if you do it right and you get it hot, you can get that skin good and crispy. You want to oil the skin. But if you really want crispy skin, do it on a platen or a griddle. If you have a Blackstone or something like that, a griddle, and you can even do it in a frying pan. Cast iron pan is great. You oil it up good, and you do it flesh side down first until it stiffens and you get some golden color. Flip it over and get that skin good and crispy. Or you can remove the skin. Once the skin starts to heat, it's pretty easy to peel off. So you can flip it skin side down, and after, say, 30 seconds, often you can peel the skin off if you don't like the skin, and then put it back in and get the flesh golden on both sides. Now, here's another trick that I like to talk about, and that is if you're smoking the fish, you want to keep the temperature low. You want to get it down to 180, 200 if your smoker will allow you. And fish is at its ideal in the 120 to 130 range. I try to shoot for 125. Now, there's a slight element of risk down there that will kill any parasites, but some bacteria can live in that temperature, and you want to be careful. If you want to be safe and make sure you get all the bacteria, when you're smoking it, smoke it to 145 internal. It's still pretty tender and juicy. But if you're smoking like salmon, which is great smoked, go to my website, AmazingRibs.com, or this book here, The Meathead Method. and get my Meathead's Memphis dust. It was designed for pork, but it's really good on salmon. And sprinkle some of that on top. You'll need to add salt. And then you lay it on top of a piece of paper. Just take some paper from your printer and cut out a little square that's about the same size as the fillet or the cross section of the fish, and put the fish on top of that. And when you smoke it, it'll penetrate from both sides right through the paper. But when you're done, if you peel that piece of paper off, it'll take the skin with it. Really cool technique. Takes skin right off. There's the pin bones is an issue, particularly with cross sections, salmon. They're really not bones. They're pieces of calcium, but they're not bones. They're not really there for structure. In fact, they're not attached to the spine or anything. They're part of the communication system. If you ever watched a school of fish, how they all turn at once, the pin bones are partially involved in that. But, you know, people do choke on them. I subscribe to a service called Sitka Seafood, and it's a company out of Sitka, Alaska. They used to be salmon only, but they've expanded. I get cod, I get black cod, I get sable. They now sell octopus and scallops, and they now have a branch in the Atlantic. And they ship it flash frozen. The boats are small boats, line caught, and immediately after catching, they go to the processor and they're flash frozen. And when I've been subscribing to them for maybe 6-7 years, and I've never had a bad piece of fish. It's pristine. It tastes like it was caught yesterday. It's fantastic. And they ship my first order with a really cool pair of tweezers. They're big. They're maybe a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch across, and they're really great for plucking pin bones. But if you don't have a special pin bone tweezers, and you can probably find them on Amazon or someplace else, needle nose pliers work great. Just grab them and pluck them, and it takes a few minutes before you start cooking. But it's a courtesy to your guests to make sure they don't gag and choke, and it makes the food taste better. Fish is different than any other meat. It's like 90% water. Steaks are 70-75% water. Same thing with pork and other land animals. But seafood can run up to 90% water. So you need to treat it a little differently. I like to cook it at lower temperatures. And I do love them smoked. And smoked salmon with the Memphis dust on top is just phenomenal. In my new book, I have some sections on seafood. And one of my favorite pieces of fish ever is the black cod. And another name for black cod is sable. And I think it's the finest fish in the ocean. I like it even better than Chilean sea bass and swordfish, which are brilliant fishes. So black cod, which is also called sable, comes from cold waters. They serve it at Nobu restaurant. Nobu is a small chain of restaurants with a Japanese influence because the owner was Japanese. And there's a recipe that I've kind of reverse engineered. It's in the book. You cut some slits in the fish and you paint it with some maple syrup and oh God, I'm drawing a blank. The soy paste. Oh God, I'm getting old and I lose names. I'm just seeing somebody saying fish fillet is an actual legal term, and one of the requirements is that a fillet is boneless. Well, that's interesting. Kevin, I didn't know that. It has to be boneless. Well, okay, but these pin bones are not bones. So, yes, right, okay. I mean, your typical spine has rib bones, but pin bones technically are not bones. So a lot of fillets have pin bones. he's also saying freshwater fish are more susceptible to parasitic infections. I wasn't aware of that. I do know that salmon, a lot of parasitic infections come from mammals in the water. Atlantic and Pacific salmon often swim in the same waters as seals, and their excrement often carries parasites. And you just go to social media and you'll see people bringing home salmon fillets and there's little worms in it, and it freaks out them out. They die instantly when you cook. Okay. Let's see what some of the comments are and see some things I might have forgotten to talk about. Edward Kent is from Virginia Beach. I bet he knows how to cook seafood. Oh, one of my favorite things is octopus. And of course, its other cephalopod cousin, squid. And the book has octopus. This book, the new book has. I obsessed over octopus. I tried everything: sous vide, tumbling. If you don't do it right, it can be very tough and chewy. Same thing with squid. So I tried every temperature. I tried different timing, and I came down. I think it's 170 for 3 or 4 hours in salt water. That's the trick. It needs to be salt water, and I have the ratio of salt to the water. I don't remember what it is, but the new book has it in it. And the old book, which came out 9 years ago, has a really good squid recipe in it. So Bob Granatiere says he loves my book. Thank you, Bobby. He lives in Florida, and he makes black and red snapper tacos with a fresh vinegar-based slaw. Oh, yeah. I've got some good slaw recipes on the website and also in the books. But yes, the vinegar-based slaws, I prefer them to the mayonnaise-based slaws. Oh, that's another trick, by the way. If you're making a salad out of it, or a dip, or a spread, and they have different names and the different styles. Florida, let's call it salad because we also talk about tuna salad. It's really not a salad. It doesn't have a lot of greens in it or anything. But if you make tuna salad, usually it's made with mayonnaise. But if you're going to do a smoked fish salad, use a blend of mayonnaise, sour cream, and cream cheese. Or throw in a little plain yogurt. But get away from pure mayonnaise. I love mayonnaise, and it works just fine. I mean, when I make tuna, it's usually just mayonnaise. But if you get some of these other dairy products in there, like sour cream, it really gives it some, enhances the flavor. So I recommend you try it. And then his fish tacos. Your traditional tacos are batter fried. Fish tacos. They're strips of fish that are batter fried, or they can be dredge fried. And you can do them grilled. And I'm pretty sure this book here has a recipe for just grilled fish tacos, and it can be delicious. Bobby, okay, our Florida boy is piping in about smoked mullet. Mullet is something that I think you only get out of Florida, maybe in Louisiana, or coastal Texas, but it's a vegetarian fish. You can't catch it with shrimp as bait or anything. It's usually netted, although in some places you're allowed to snag them, and that means you get a treble hook and 2 or 3 treble hooks on your line. You throw it out, and they swim in big schools. And you jerk, and you can snatch them, and they smoke them down there. There's a little place in Bradenton on the west coast of Florida. I can't remember the exact name of the place, but Bobby, if you ever get up there and you're curious about this place, drop me a note at meathead@amazingribs.com. They'll send you the name of this place. They have a little smokehouse there, and they do marvelous fresh smoke. They have their own fishing fleet. It's not a fleet, really. They got like 2 or 3 boats. But they smoke their own fish there. Everything that they serve there is just fantastic. It's a little dump right on the water, though. And I've also had smoked mullet further down the coast. That's very good. Yeah, Kevin says he does bluefish on the grill using a foil boat. And, I used to get agitated about people who put foil down on the grill and then cook. But I've had good luck, and I have a recipe in my first book about I caught some freshwater bass, and I did it in a foil boat with butter and tarragon. Seafood loves tarragon. If you can get fresh tarragon, fine. Dried tarragon, fine. And, of course, butter. I forgot one of the other meals we had on Sturgeon Bay, which is this marvelous little peninsula. And there was a dive bar where they have fish boils. Now, fish boils are very traditional in the upper Great Lakes. It's a Scandinavian concept that the settlers, a lot of Scandinavians, and Wisconsin and Michigan have adapted fish boils as sort of a local specialty. And I was kind of skeptical. Boiling any food just kind of is a turnoff for me. But what the hell? I had to try it because it's traditional. And this guy, I think his name was Jensen, did the fish boil. And he had these big old cast iron kettles. And he started off with a heavily salted water and put logs underneath and got the water boiling. And then he threw in carrots and small round potatoes and brought them to a boil and let them cook for about 10 minutes. Then he added onions, round onions, whole onions, and let them cook another 10 minutes or so. And then he put in cod fillets. And not treated in any way, but they are boneless, and I don't know, maybe 8 ounces a piece. And he just tossed them in there, and they went about 10 or 15 minutes, and then they're scooped out and plated and served. And with drawn butter. Drawn butter is clarified butter. If you don't know how to make clarified butter, you need to learn. The technique for it is in AmazingRibs.com, and I think it's in one of the books. But basically, you just gently cook butter until the milk solids, there are solids that come out of it from milk, come out. Or you can buy something called ghee. It's very much like clarified butter. It's done very similarly. In any case, I'm telling you, dunking that fish into the clarified butter, the potatoes, the onions, the carrots, it was fantastic. I was blown away. I did not have much hope for boiled fish, and it was just delightful. We ate all kinds of fish on the Great Lakes this trip. I was shocked. I mean, I frankly didn't expect it. Bob Ullman says he loves lake perch. Yeah, I've caught. I mean, perch are dime a dozen. I mean, you can find them in mud puddles. They're in every little lake in the Midwest, and they're small fish. They're maybe 6-8 inches long. But little kids, it's usually the first thing a little kid catches, and they love it. And this little place, the Lighthouse Inn, they know how to do it. Thank you, Paul. Miso is what I was trying to think of. I drew a blank. The Nobu black cod or sable, you slice crosshatches in the meat and paint it with a blend of miso paste and maple syrup, and it's just fantastic. And I have that recipe in the book, and I've replicated it. Yeah, Kevin saying that. Kevin, you know your seafood. Smoked fish dip. And it sometimes it's, I think dip is a term that is typical in the Great Lakes. I think it may be called fish salad most of the times down in Florida. He says usually amberjack or king mackerel in it. And I over on the East Coast, there is a big seafood processor who makes a seafood spread for the whole nation. You can find their products everywhere under various brand names. I forget the name of the company, but you won't see it on the label. They come up with all kinds of brand names and ship it to Walmart and Publix and all the big grocery chains. Yeah, Matt's saying fish boils are a big event. This place, Mary's, on Sturgeon Bay, they do it 2 or 3 nights a week, and usually 20 to 30 people. And several of them came over from Green Bay, and a lot of locals and a couple of tourists like me. Bob says he has commercially fished for whitefish in Door County. Door County is that little peninsula that is on the north is Green Bay, and on the south is Lake Michigan. And it's marvelous. Because it's a little peninsula, it's surrounded by water, and there's several peninsulas up there, and that surrounding by water tempers the cold weather. So there's a lot of fruit, and Door County is famous for their cherries. And you can't go to Door County without buying a cherry pie. Even if it's out of season, they freeze them, and they're famous for their cherry pies. If you're there during cherry season, which is June, July at the latest, the big bag of black Bing cherries or Mount Morrisseys are phenomenal. Bobby's talking about the internal temperature of salmon. I like it around 125. It's still moist. You go much beyond that and it can get kind of dryish. Bobby is asking, when frying fish on the grill, what temp do you get the grill up to? You know, I never really noticed the grill temp because I've got this big old cast iron Dutch oven with about 2 inches of oil in there. And so it's the oil temp I watch. And I like the oil temp at 350 to 375. So on my gas grill, that's almost full blast. But the minute you throw cold meat in there, the temperature knocks down about 25 degrees. So if you bring it up to 375, you're down to 350, 340 in a hurry. But when you take the meat out, it recovers, but slowly. So you're juggling the temperature. But if you can keep it in the 350, you don't want to go much below 350 because then it absorbs more oil. And that's really interesting. People are freak out about frying that you're getting a lot of oil, and you're really not. Fish is 90% water. Oil is oil. Oil and water don't mix. That oil doesn't penetrate into the fish. Now, it can penetrate into the coating, the breading. Now, if you use a wet breading, that's water too. So when you put something into boiling oil, what do you see immediately? Bubbles, lots of bubbles. What are those bubbles? That's steam. That's water going from liquid to steam and coming out of the fish or potatoes or whatever you're frying, your batter, and all that bubbling you see is steam. It's a phase change from water to vapor. And that steam coming out blocks oil from going in. So you're not getting a lot of oil penetration. And a great fish fry, like the one we had at the 7-acre dairy, it's not the least bit greasy. There's a little oil in the crust, but it's really not greasy. It's not terribly oily. And I've done it where I've measured the oil in the pot before and after, and there's a slight decrease in the oil that gets absorbed in the batter, but not a lot. It's like everything else. I've said this before. I don't write about the health of the food that we cook because I don't know enough about it, and I don't think anyone else does. Even the dietitians and the others, I mean, we all know the story of how eggs were poison and now they're good for you. Butter was poison and now it's good for you. Recently they're saying that whole milk is better than 2%. The way they measure what's good for you and what's not is they ask people to keep a diary of what they've eaten, and then they count how many people die and what ages they die or what diseases they get. And it's a very iffy method. It's not gold standard science where you have a control and an experimental batch and you can compare them precisely. And it's a moving target. And yes, the dietitians and the scientists know a lot about food, but I think what they also don't know what they don't know. And certainly, and I don't talk about health very often. I don't talk about politics at all, but I'll slip a little on both in here for a second. Our politicians don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And I'm thinking particularly of a speech given recently about medicines and things. I married a PhD microbiologist, and I've learned an awful lot about food and microbiology. If you eat 3 meals a day and 365 days a year, you're going to eat about 1,000 meals a year. And if you live to 80, which is somewhere about our average life expectancy, you're going to eat 80,000 meals in your life. You can have some fried fish. It's not going to kill you. You can have hamburgers. You don't want to have them every day, but they're not going to kill you. You can have Cheetos. Not going to kill you. Pepperoni, a little bit of something is not going to kill you. Now, if you have hamburgers every day and fried fish every day, it might not be the best thing for you. But I'm here to tell you, worrying about what you eat will kill you faster than anything you eat. So, Mom was right. Have a little bit of everything. And just don't dote upon one thing in particular. So, that's the only thing I ever say about diet. Yeah, Bobby Johnson. I'm from New Orleans, and we grill redfish drum on the half shell. I had just heard that term from somebody from Mobile, which is, the sister of New Orleans. And in my book, I have a recipe for fish on the half shell, which is you leave the scales and the skin on the fish and put it directly on the grill grates. And of course, if that gets really hot, it burns the scales and the skin, but it cooks the fish, and you don't have to flip it. It's on the half shell. Now, if it's a thick piece of fish, you may have to flip it, but most fillets. So on the I never heard the half shell. I heard it from some people at a barbecue joint down there, and so I've replicated it, and it's in the Meathead method on the half shell. Okay, we can continue talking about seafood, but I'm happy to take any comments or questions on any subject. If you want to ask me about grills or steak or brisket, whatever tickles your fancy, I'm here for you. I'm curious, those of you who are listening in, tell me your favorite fish. I've already told you mine is black cod and or sable. Although right behind it is Chilean sea bass, and right behind that is swordfish. A tuna. Tuna is just a pain in the butt. It gets dry just by looking at it. most great tuna is cooked maybe down around 105, 110, and it's still rosy colored to red. It's barely cooked. It's just, you throw it on the grill, you sear the exterior, you get a little color to it, and you pull it off, and it's almost raw. And that's when it's tender. That's a little undercooked for my taste. But if you cook it up to 125, 130, it just gets too dry. My wife does. We subscribe to this Sitka Seafood, and they ship us tuna along with other things. Every month we get 5 pounds of fish from them, frozen. And she's been poaching the tuna or poaching it in butter, and that's turned out pretty good. But it's still not my favorite fish. So, what are your favorite? Paul, tri-tip, he says. That's beef. Paul, he knows that. Oh, he says snapper, tuna, and swordfish. Yeah, count me out on the tuna. Bobby, freshwater trout. Yeah, and I like saltwater trout. I think it's also called weak fish. But freshwater trout, I've got it boated. I'm pretty sure my recipe for freshwater trout is in a boat in my first book. Bobby, also grouper. Yeah, that's a nice fish. That's a nice fish. And boy, some of them get huge. I mean, 30 pounds or so. Mullet's Fish Camp in Bradenton is restaurant. I think no. Um, I don't want to bore you guys while I go looking around on my computer for the information. It's on an inlet, and I just can't think of it. It's not Mullet's Fish Camp, and it's just a little shack on the water with a couple of fishing boats. Doggone it, can't think of it. Alaskan halibut. My wife and I went up to Alaska last year, and ate seafood up there too. I'm showing my true colors here. I'm really a fish head, not meathead. Yeah, the halibut up there, those suckers are huge. They're massive fish, and there's a lot of nice meat on them. Bronzino, I see, from Randall. Lake Ontario salmon with fried rice. That's a good choice. And so is grouper, says Jay. Paul, little neck clams and oysters are great roasted on the grill. The new book here, I have several years ago, my wife and I flew into Portland, Oregon, and drove down the coast, and we found a little inlet. Again, I'm sorry, I can't remember the name. And it was one of these inlets where when the tide went out, the whole place practically emptied out, and you can walk around in this soft mud and see the clams squirting water and just reach down with your hands and pluck them. And we did that and got a whole mess of clams. And I've got a recipe that is just fantastic for that, with a mignonette, which is an old French butter recipe, done on a cheap old hibachi, one of those grocery store grills that you buy when you're on the road. And it's really good. Also, speaking of the recipes in my book, there is a shrimp recipe in there, which I did with a butter and Grand Marnier. Grand Marnier is an orange-based liqueur. It's fantastic. And I used that butter. I did the shrimp. I marinated in that and grilled it. It was unbelievably good, and it's in this new Meathead Method book. But I had some of that Grand Marnier butter left, and I had a baguette, so I made garlic bread, and I just painted it, grilled it, and I think it was better than the shrimp. Grand Marnier butter on garlic bread was just brilliant. So that's a good one. It's in the book. Mediterranean red mullet. Yeah, it's different than the mullet they get in Florida. Oh, Kevin talks about escalar. There's a great cold water fish. Kevin, am I correct? Is that a member of the Salmonidae? Is it a like trout and salmon? Is that a part of that family? Troy is very ecumenical on his choices. Depends on the week. Perch, smelt, jacks, walleye, browns, salmon, or whatever else is running. He's a fisherman. No telling, no mistaking that. You mentioned smelt. I live in a suburb of Chicago, and when I first moved here, there were smelt runs in Lake Michigan in spring, and people would go down there with big throw nets. You've seen them; they're a big net, and you just throw it out there, and it's got weights on the bottom. It encloses the herds of fish, and you bring it in, and you've just got buckets of smelt. Smelt are small fish. They're maybe 3-4 inches long, and they're typically just battered or breaded and deep fried, and you eat the whole thing. Most people slit them open and pull the guts out, but you eat the bones. Get very tender. You eat the bones and everything. Chop the head off and the tail. But so I didn't have one of these nets, and I was working in a liquor store when I first heard about the smelt run. Being a fish lover, I grabbed several bottles of Sauvignon Blanc and Chardonnay and went down to the seawall on Lake Michigan in Chicago, and they were lined up almost shoulder to shoulder down there and hauling in the smelts. And they had little bonfires or burners, and they were frying them up on the spot. And I just traded wine for smelt. And I think they pronounce it schmelt because of German. And they don't run anymore. I think these freshwater mussels have deprived the lake of the nutrients and the food that the smelt loved, because there are no smelt in Lake Michigan to speak of anymore. I don't know where you're getting it. Um, yeah, Bobby, the Grand Marnier butter is in the second book, and it's just unbelievably good on shrimp and on the garlic bread. Let me. I don't want to waste too much of your time. Oh, there we go. Um, Stand by here. Let me just rearrange some things on the screen. And okay. So, all right. Let's. I'm not gonna bore you with a lot of pictures, but let me share the screen here. Okay. Um, Traverse Peninsula is wine country, and there's some really good wines up there. Riesling is one of the specialties. These are Rieslings that we saw just a few days ago. They knit the trees. I guess birds are a big problem. And there's rose bushes at the end of the road, which is a French tradition. It, in theory, keeps away certain pests. Um, so let's see if we can get some fish pictures here. Sorry. Okay, where am I? Oh, this is Sleeping Bear Dunes. It's a huge dune on the Traverse Peninsula. Beautiful. Okay, let's get some fish up here. Oh, here's a little place on Mackinac Island. Minis. A good sandwich joint. Nothing spectacular except this. It's green bean season. They're ripe now and they're being plucked. My wife has. These are battered and fried. The batter has a lot of cornmeal in it. Green beans. They tasted fantastic. The breading was a lot like onion rings, and it clung to the green beans beautifully. It was a lot of fun. And of course, Mackinac Island is famous for its fudge, and we saw some fudge there. And if you want a hot dog, this is the place to go to. And I love me my hot dogs. This was the best breakfast place I've ever eaten at, up in the Upper Peninsula. Here we go. Here's the fish boil. That's our boil master. Let's get a picture. There you can see the cod floating. They go in last, and that's the cod. Home movies, yay! And that's the plate. Cod, clarified butter, potatoes, carrots, piece of pumpernickel bread. There you can see before the fish goes in the carrots and potatoes. And there she is, Mrs. Meathead. That's the perch at Lighthouse Inn. You can see their small fillets. Just brilliant, absolutely brilliant there. The dairy. They make their own butter. That was really good butter. And so are their cinnamon rolls. All right, well, I don't need to bore you with a lot of home pictures. That's me. My wife grows cayennes. I dehydrate them on the smoker or in the dehydrator. I cut off the stem and shake out the seeds, and then these are dry, and then I grind them, and we end up with this, and that is cayenne powder, and it is marvelous. Really, it has just a fragrance that is unmatched. Nope. So, in any case, so much for home movies here. Well, we've been at it for just about an hour. Let's see if we got any more questions or comments. Costco has been bringing in whole sea bream. You know, I would just I've never gone to Costco or the Walmart's big discount store because it's just my wife and I guess they sell a lot of things in bulk, and neither of them is very close to where I live. But I was just listening to a business blogger talking about the business model at Costco. And he was saying something that made me think I need to check them out. He was saying they're very meticulous about the quality of products that they carry, that they don't carry no junk, and that it's very important to their image that they have good products. He says, but they often sell it at close to cost. They make their money on the memberships. You have to join, I guess, and you pay a membership fee. I don't know how much it is. But they have millions of members, and that's their profit. So that sounds pretty cool. I really need to check it out. Jim was asking what vineyard was that. That was Chateau Grand Traverse, which was the first winery and vineyard in Traverse Peninsula. And I visited them maybe 30 years ago when it was the only winery, maybe more than that, 40 years ago, when it was the only winery up there. And I tasted Rieslings and late harvest Rieslings that just blew my socks off. And I knew right there and then that it was going to become an important wine region. And it is. There's probably 50 wineries up there now. And indeed, Riesling is turning out to be the star. But I've got a bottle in the fridge right now of a cherry wine that is really delicious. Kevin's asked, did the boil master throw kerosene on the fire at the end of the cooking process? He did. And I don't know if it was kerosene or I think it might have been charcoal lighter fluid. And you get this huge burst of flame, which doesn't get into the food, thank God. I don't know why they do that. Do you know that, Do you know, Kevin? I guess that's part of the tradition. When the food is done, they throw kerosene or lighter fluid or something right on the logs, and you get this massive flame. I don't understand why you do that. When I'm going to write a recipe for a fish boil that you can do at home on top of a grill without having to go out and buy a huge, massive cast iron vat. But I'm going to leave that part out unless somebody can explain to me why you need to do that. I think it's for show more than anything. Okay, Jim Tortorelli, and I think Jim's been here every month since the beginning, and we're not sure, but he may be related to my wife, whose name is Tortorello. But he says, can you talk me through the shaping of the dough for pizza to be baked on a steel on a grill, specifically how to minimize the dough sticking to the peel? This is the hardest part of doing pizza, is the dough is very wet and it wants to stick to the peel. The peel is that big paddle. And there are a couple of tricks that I've learned, and I got to confess, even though I've gotten pretty good at it, the last couple of times, not the last couple, a few cooks ago, I took a big old pizza and tried to slip it on the grill. And when I snapped that paddle back, it folded over and I had a calzone instead of a pizza, which was okay, but it was not what I was planning. There are two approaches. Some of these new peels, by the way, have a sort of ceramic coat, which is not as sticky. And I got one of those when I bought one of my unis. I've had a couple of Uni. Uni is a company that makes the backyard pizza grills that we'll do a Neapolitan-style pizza in about 2 minutes or less. But it came with a nice steel, a nice peel, and it's got perforations in it, so there's less surface for things to stick to. The tried and true is to throw some cornmeal down on the peel, and that acts like ball bearings. Cornmeal plus flour. Flour will get onto the wet of the pizza bottom and absorb water, so it isn't quite so wet and quite so sticky. The problem is if you build your pie when it's on the peel, it's got time now to start sticking. So, and I know a lot of chefs do that. They get the dough and they use what we call the steering wheel or the bicycle technique, where you hold it in your hands and stretch it by making it like a steering wheel and rotating it. And then they throw it down on top of the peel, and now they add the sauce and the cheese and everything else. That gives it plenty of time to start sticking. I prefer to build the pie on a table that's got a lot of flour down and some cornmeal. And I build the pie there, and now it won't stick too bad to the table, but you got to jiggle it, and sometimes you got to kind of lift it and even blow under it to get it to lift off, and then slide it onto the peel. And then I moved my uni from the far side of my deck to close to the back door, so I can go straight from the kitchen to the oven in a hurry. I don't want it sitting around on the peel any longer than it has to. And then I've also tried another trick. I've tried actually putting it in the pizza oven still on the peel and leaving it there for about 30 seconds to a minute. Now that peel gets hot and cooks the bottom, and now it comes off a lot easier. That's not the recommended technique, but it works. The real trick is when you put it in, you have this tendency to push then pull, and do not push. You want to get the front edge of the dough right on the edge of the peel, and maybe even on the verge of hanging over. And you want to move that peel in towards the back, and then you jerk it back as fast as you can, so that that little bit of dough that is right on the edge of the peel hits you're using a steel or a pizza stone, so it hits that stone and sticks to it and holds, so when you pull the peel back. You might want to practice without making a whole pizza. Just make some dough. Just baked pizza dough is delightful. You can pour some olive oil on a plate and dunk it in that, and you can break it up. You can overcook it and make crackers out of it, and practice until you figure out what works best for you. But I think the combination of flour and cornmeal, and get it right to the edge of the peel, and I build the pie off the peel and then get it on the peel, and then go straight to the pizza oven as quickly as I can and yank it. That's what's working for me lately. But I got to tell you, I have had a couple of times where I yank it and it folds over, and you're just... Cool J says wooden peels stick less than steel. I have wooden peels. I have steel. I haven't found a big difference. The wooden peels, you would think, but they're wood, so the surface is not perfectly smooth, and it absorbs a little water. So I've had problems with both of them. Paul is saying my technique is Paul Dimming is what my technique is what I use to make pizza on a wooden slab with flour and cornmeal. When the pie is ready, I use a peel with cornmeal on it and slide it under the pie, and then place it on a pizza stone in the oven using the insert remove quick approach. Okay, so I think Paul and I are doing the same thing. And there's these home, gosh, there's if you go to Amazon and you Google pizza oven, you're going to find like 3,000 hits. Everybody's making them. The Uni, when it originally came out, and they may still be doing this, had your choice of propane or wood pellets. I just don't see, some of them have little wooden logs, miniature logs. I don't see the need for doing pizza with wood. Now, yeah, downtown pizza ovens, they're huge. They look like igloos, and they build logs. But the smoke goes up the chimney, and I don't want a smoked pizza. I don't care for that flavor. And if you're cooking a pie in 2 minutes on a really good hot pizza oven, it's not going to get much smoke. To me, I'm a control freak. Temperature control is vital. I want that pizza oven, and the hardest part of doing pizza is getting the top and the bottom done at the same time. I mean, sometimes you get the top done and you look underneath and it's still not brown. Sometimes you look underneath and it's gorgeous. It's got those little leopard spots, which are a telltale sign of a great pie. And then the top is not done. And if you've got sausage on there, you want that sausage to cook. A lot of people par-cook the sausage in a frying pan. That just galls me. My wife insists on it because she's a PhD microbiologist, food safety expert. But I want to cook it on the pie. So getting the two done at the same time is tricky. I use I keep that pizza stone hot. I use a stone, although I do have a pizza steel. It's just a big slab of steel, and a lot of pizza makers swear by it. I've got one, and I've just never gotten around to using it because my Uni comes with a stone built in. Kevin. Kevin says smoking a pizza will ruin your bong. That's good. That's good. Oh, God. Yeah, I think Cool J77's got it. Wood pizza oven is for the aroma in the restaurant, and guests are attracted to see it. Yeah, that makes some sense. I just don't see the point of cooking over wood. I'm a control freak. I want that temperature under control. So I have I use propane. And by the way, a lot of these unis and other propanes, they burn these small bottles, 1 quart or so of propane, and they're expensive. You can buy adapters, and I think I have information about them on AmazingRibs.com, but you can buy a brass adapter that you can attach to the hose and attach that to a large propane tank, which is a lot less expensive, and you don't have to worry about running out in the middle of your cook. So take a look at that on AmazingRibs.com. Google the pizza stuff. And if you have questions about pizza, our editor, Dave Joachim, has written books on pizza. He knows far more than I do. And he's ghostwritten books for pizza experts, including a very famous pizza chef in Philadelphia, and he did the ghostwriting on his book. So if you have questions, just post your question to the website, and Dave will jump all over pizza questions. He's really good. Well, we've been at it for an hour and 45 minutes, and I mentioned at the early part of the show that we recently brought home an 8-week-old female black lab. Recently, 3 days ago, and she now believes she owns the house, and we work for her, and that's not far from the truth. I mean, she gets up in the middle. She lives in a crate right now, and she gets up in the middle of the night and needs to go out. And so far, my neighbors haven't complained about me wandering around the backyard with a plastic bag in my hand in my underwear. But I'm not getting a lot of sleep, and I probably won't for a while until she's house trained. So if you will excuse me, you can always reach me. I'm Meathead at AmazingRibs.com via email. I hang out on X a lot. I don't know why, but I do. I'm not often on many other social media. I don't have the time for it all. And every page on the website has a place for questions and comments, and you can ask questions there, and either I or some of our moderators or people like David, who are experts, will jump in and help you. Otherwise, it's fall, and I thought about talking about tailgating today, but I've done that before. If you want to see our talks on tailgating, they're stored on YouTube. And there's articles on tailgating, including a really good checklist if you're going tailgating of everything you need to bring. Don't forget the tickets. So, thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate your attention and your time and your participation, and have fun cooking. And I'll be back in this same time, same station, the final Wednesday of next month at 7:30 Chicago time. That would be 8:30 Eastern. So good night, everybody.
Only thing that keeps me hanging on. I need ribs to ease my day. I need to find time to cook them right. My papa said, can't hurry ribs. No, you just have to wait. He said ribs.
And now at your service, here to help you cook and eat like royalty, is the barbecue whisperer and hedonism evangelist from AmazingRibs.com, the planet's biggest and baddest barbecue and grilling website, Meathead.